And welcome back to another episode of What the Hell Are We Gonna Do? Because I think there's something that a lot of people seem to have forgotten about. You know, January 20th, 2025, restoring freedom of speech and ending federal censorship. Hello. Now, for everyone that's going on the whole gravy train, complaining about corporate censorship and what's happening with YouTube, Spotify, all this stuff between the UK and the United States government, the Child Safety Act, all these little acts that are being enforced at a federal level, including the FCC, as it is fundamentally an arm of the federal government. It's federal's part of the freaking name. This first act right here limits anything that they can do. They're not allowed to be doing their whole bias monitor. They're not allowed to be doing any of that because of this. Come on, people. Bro literally signed this. No taxpayer resources are used to engage in or facilitate any conduct that would unconstitutionally abridge the free speech of any American citizen. The people that work at the freaking news medias are American citizens. Come on. Taxpayer resources, right? Our taxes fund the FCC. Why is no lawyer looking at this? Why is no one applying this? Granted, it's not a real law, it's an executive order, but it's an oxymoron in and of itself, what the government is doing right now. Especially, this could have been used during the whole college protest thing and the anti-Semitism labeling and all this shit. Like, come on. Why is no lawyer using this? Why is no one using this against the administration? Why is it so hard to read? Oh my god. Now, yeah, I know I'm like off the rails, crashing out. Ooh, whatever. Come on. The FCC is a federal arm of the government. ICE is a federal arm of the government through DHS, through the executive branch. The executive branch is the federal government. It is 1/3 of it. Not including the state legislators, not state by state policy. There's no state by state laws. Even the Child Safety Act, all these other acts that they're trying to push as forms of censorship go against this. They go against this. Identify and take appropriate action to correct past misconduct by the federal government related to censorship of protected speech. This is past misconduct by the federal government, which I haven't seen, well, besides like defamation lawsuits, but that's a personal thing. That has nothing to do with the federal government or anything. It's just bullshit. Ending censorship of protected speech. No federal department, agency, entity, officer, employee, or agent may act or use any federal resource in a manner contrary to Section 2 of this order. What's Section 2? What do we... Let's look into this a little bit more. This is Section 2. So it's a little redundant. Okay. Secure the right of the American people to engage in constitutionally protected speech. So we're going based off the Constitution. Let's read the First Amendment. Let's go over that. Again, if you want to go over it yourself, go check over my freaking constitutional analysis where I go over it. On my website, click the link. It's on there. You click on the little sidebar. We went over it yesterday. Go check out the video from yesterday as well about the admissions that were made that no one's also talking about either. I get everyone gets stuck on the hype of, ooh, this is such a big thing. They get hyped up over the logarithm trying to ride that thing. But they don't talk about these simple things. that were put in that can be used against the administration. Use their own words against them. Like, come on. They go back on so much of their own words, so much of their own statements, so many of their own executive orders and laws that they try to pass. Nobody is doing that. Why? 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 Legal Eagle, what the hell? Legal AF, what the hell? Midas Touch, what the hell? I appreciate all the work you guys do. And a lot of these other lawyer entities, everything, like, come on, I'm not a lawyer, but I can even see how obvious you can use this against what the administration is doing right now, against what Congress is trying to do right now. Right? No federal anything. Whatever YouTube wants to do, I guess, on its own, whatever, sure. That's why there's other places you can go for ingesting media. But when it comes to the internet as a whole, the federal government has no right to censure, whether it's for ideology, whether it's for porn, blah, 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 blah. I probably can't even say that. There's a lot of things I can't even say at this point because of all this crap. Come on, man. All right, First Amendment. First Amendment of the Constitution. Let's read, guys. Let's read. God. No, I don't want an ad. I want the actual brother. This is explained. I want the actual text. Where was it? Oh, unless they already got rid of it. Oh, did they already get rid of it? Oh, no. No. Oh, no. National Archives is still there. Thank God. The transcription. I don't want the transcription. I want the actual freaking thing. 12. This is the proposition for the 12 amendments. I want the actual Bill of Rights. Give me the Bill of Rights. Give me it. Give me all of it. There we go. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, right? The separation of church and state, which that's already been neglected for decades at this point. Christian nationalism, thank you. I get the moral values, I get all that, but it doesn't need to have a label attached to it, clearly. And you don't need to be putting the 10 Commandments into everything. You can put the fucking Constitution in there. Or abridging the freedom of speech. Freedom of speech. Or of the press. Or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances. You have the right to speak when you're an individual within the United States. The only limits apply to the government when it comes to the First Amendment, as that was what the Bill of Rights is. Limits on the government on what they can do toward the people. What they are not allowed to do. Not what they're allowed to do. What they're not allowed to do. Right? Go to the Declaration of Independence, check that out. Now, if you need it even more simplified, but also elaborated on words. I should just bookmark this freaking goddamn thing. Come on. Internet's slow today now. Whoa. Probably all that censorship going on. Constitutional analysis. Right. Go to the page. I should probably put headers, but you should read the whole freaking thing. Yep. There's a reason why there's a part of the First Amendment for separation of church and state. Since their previous king was using the name of God in vain in order to push their personal agenda. Read the Declaration of Independence. You'll understand it. And I go over also the unanimous decision to pass both the Declaration of Independence as a federal agreement, federal declaration, in the Constitution. Okay? So I also go over the amendments. Let's see. Truth of the matter that in order to do due process, so I go over due process in the articles. All right, I go over treason, which is also mentioned in the articles of the Constitution, especially Article 2. Very important. Yeah, when I make this look a little more appealing to the eye and it's easier for people to read, unless you read the whole damn thing, which I would rather you do, so you get the point, instead of just nitpicking out of context, which is another whole entire issue in and of itself. Alright, here we go, yeah. Time has tested the integrity of any constitution through many generations of humanity, because the United States is not the only place that has had a constitution. There are many other countries that have constitutions written similarly. Maybe not the exact same amendments in form, but in principle, it's the same when it comes to democracy or a democratic republic. So here I go over speech, meaning 1, the expression of or the ability to express thoughts and feelings by articulate sounds. Okay? So thoughts and feelings, the expression, freedom of expression, right? For any individual. And 2, a formal address or disclosure delivered to an audience, freedom of press, right? That's why the founders put it in such plain English to further explore the connection of a relative form of action, by definition, understanding and expression, meaning 1, the process of making known one's thoughts or feelings. Okay? 2, a look on someone's face that conveys a particular emotion. What, are they going to make that illegal next too? Even though the federal government has no right in imposing anything toward any individual, any American citizen, as they say. Right? Even though we've had American citizens speak out and also be detained because of prejudice. This is stuff that was back in the 70s, the 60s. We already went through, and we're going through again, in plain view, and nothing's getting done about it. Okay? This is why it's important to have that First Amendment, to understand what it actually means in regards to the people that reside under the jurisdiction of the United States government. You know, within the borders of America. So, 3, a word or phrase, especially an idiomatic one, used to convey an idea. It's like metaphors, and anything like that. It's just word or a phrase to convey an idea that is protected. 4, the production of something, especially by pressing or squeezing it out. That's a little bit more technical when it comes to like science and doing stuff like that. But a little bit of relativity there. Latin relative exprimere, meaning press out, express. Freedom of expression by definition is freedom to convey thoughts, feelings, or ideas, which can include ordering or directing another to take action, as expression can also be considered as an action. Right? As the production of something, inclusive of the recognition of biological mechanisms, and then I go over a little bit more. Like moving your freaking lips in your mouth, like we're all human beings. What, are you gonna duct tape our mouth shut next? Or are you just gonna cut out everyone's tongue? Like, that is very hyperbolic. At the same time, anything's possible at this point if they're going literally against their own executive order that they put in. Where was it? Put in January 20th. Because this is supposed to follow the definitions in the Constitution, right? And the reason why I also bring up expression as an action, speech as an action, is because that's what it is. You move your lips, you make sounds, it's an action of sorts. But granted, the founders back then, they recognized that speech, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Anyone that is a citizen that has no direct power, I mean, everyone has free will, essentially. That's the belief, right? Any citizen that tells someone else to do something, the other person just say no. Especially if that person that's directing such actions, such words, is not in the government. This is where the limits start coming into play. Because when you're a part of the government and you start speaking and start telling people what to do, that's where it's a problem. That's why this is a limit on what the government can do. Governments have no right to take away an individual's freedom of speech, but clearly, if, say, the president tells the military to do something, and that's, within his jurisdiction, but clearly what the military is going to end up doing through that action, because it's an action at that point, it's an order, it's more than just speech, and he has the power under the Constitution to make such direction as we've seen in California, right? There are limits to that. Fundamentally within Article 2, fundamentally within the Bill of Rights. Because taking such action against people that are peacefully assembling, right? Peaceful protest, which is also mentioned in the First Amendment, the right to protest, the right to assemble. When you're taking an action against that First Amendment right of the individuals that reside in this country, whether they're American citizens or not, but I mean, especially in this instance, American citizens, because I'm sure most of them are, it's illegal. And then you make an order in January saying that the federal government cannot go against the First Amendment. You're emboldening that First Amendment. But meanwhile, the last few months, the exact opposite's been going on. So tell me, why has no one been using this? Ending censorship of protected speech. As we just went over, all speech of an individual is protected. Granted, yes, there is hate speech, but that's already been overlooked. Actually, it's been overlooked more so than just speaking out against the government, right? As we've seen at college campuses, compared to the things that certain officers, have been caught saying while doing their arrests, and nothing happens to them. They're the ones that are working for the government. They're the ones where the First Amendment limits what they can say and do. Because we've already been over this. Like, what the hell? There's so much precedent that all these actions have been going against, and where's the judges? Where's anyone? Where's a lawyer? It's very disheartening. The Attorney General, in consultation with the heads of executive departments and agencies, shall investigate the activities of the federal government over the last 4 years. It's just a witch hunt. What else is new? Say in the last 4 years, you're going over, please, posturing, boo, Section 4, general provisions. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency, or the head thereof. Oxymoron, because that's the federal government. The executive department is an arm of the federal government. Why are you going... Why? The authority granted by law. Executive orders aren't laws. They're not. Plain and simple. They're two different things. Executive orders aren't even in the Constitution. Come on. Laws are passed by Congress. The functions of the Director of Office Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. Part of the federal government. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. That doesn't even make sense compared to everything else that was just said. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity, because it's not a law, by any party against the United States. So you're limiting the federal government of the United States, but saying that this can't be used against the United States federal government by any party? Its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. Here we go again with the any other person. Which this was in the order that we looked at yesterday. Or no. 2 days ago. So I think this is just a copy and paste in order to say that, oh yeah, we're the federal government, we're doing this because it's not a state government. There's only two ways to look at it. The executive branch, judicial branch, and the House Congress. The legislative branch, Jesus Christ. They're either federal or the state. That's it. That's it. These laws aren't being implemented at a state level, at a federal level. And you're saying that the federal government, which includes you, and any other executive arm, agency, especially the FCC, it's federal. It can't censor. It can't do any of this. By the First Amendment, for one, and then two, this executive order. Which isn't even a law. Oh, I don't know why no one's using this. No one in Congress is using this. Why? It hurts my brain. It's like, yeah, I know this happened in January, but it happened. So this is definitely something I wanted to go over. At least point out. Because, god damn. Let's look up the FCC. FCC stands for Federal Communications Commission. Federal. Are we that R-worded? This executive order applies to them as they are federal. God damn. Every corporation can take advantage of this. Anyone with a lawyer can take advantage of this. Come on. Why are these arguments not being made? Why? Same thing with yesterday's video. Why aren't those arguments being made? Still. Do I gotta be the only one that brings it up? And mind you, is between all the people that have been disappeared that are U.S. citizens that have had their First Amendment rights infringed upon, excuse me as I can't even speak at this point because I'm so friggin' flabbergasted by just the idiocracy that's within this order and that's going on right now. Yeah, everyone's gonna bitch and moan about, oh, censorship, oh, they're gonna come after me, oh, Spotify's gonna change their rules, YouTube's gonna change their rules, the UK's changing their rules, oh, they're censoring the internet. Then use the actual rules that the same administration put in place against them. What are they gonna do? Say it's all BS? They fucking said it themselves. The federal government has no jurisdiction in censoring the speech of any person within the United States. Alright? The title of the act Restoring freedom of speech and ending federal censorship. Come on, people. Federal. Words have meaning. If words don't have meaning, then what's the point of any of this shit? This is what happens when education systems just... when it's been ripped apart. When the federal government has used and abused their supposed freedom of speech in destroying everything. Because the government is the one that has limits. Granted, someone can say something as hateful as possible, right? And I mean, people make threats all the time. And that's something to be mindful of, yes. Yes. But clearly... Fuck this train. Alright. Oh, wait a moment. I'll have to cut this out. Just take a moment. Breathe. Realize that a lot of people just don't take the time to understand these things and to look back at what's going on and apply certain things like this order to things that are going on right now. This order was 7 months ago. Still in effect. Regardless of if it's a law or not. Nonetheless, it's in the Constitution as the First Amendment. So this would be a Supreme Court issue at this point. Lawyers, where you at? You got a job to do. I don't have any of those certifications. I can't afford to get a bar license. I wish I could. There's a lot of things I wish I can do. This is the best I can do right now. At least make people aware that these things exist, these points exist, these arguments exist, and under the First Amendment, you can make these arguments. You can say these things. You are protected, whether you're a U.S. citizen or not. And if they take away those rights, then you'll have a lawyer, then show them this, and then fight. Fight in the courts, go all the way up to the Supreme Court, have the two judges that are clearly bought and paid for ideologically, right, by the administration, that were placed in there, have them stepped aside, and then take a proper vote. That's another thing, too. The Supreme Court, when it comes to the ethics, obviously they're corrupted by money. They're simply corrupted by money. That is as plain as day. Money, services, whatever. You see it in the reports. There's no accountability. There's no pressure. The last administration failed epically because they were too scared to do anything. And I can understand that because everyone's so divided. Everyone's so gung-ho and just quick to act. I get the dangers in that. I understand that. But things are so much worse now than they were 4 years ago. So, clearly it's important to recognize that fact. And even then still, this is a compelling enough argument to make that if certain members of the Supreme Court went against it, then they just shouldn't even be there, because it goes against the whole meaning of justice in and of itself. It goes against the Constitution. Their job is to interpret the Constitution, like how I did. With precedent. Mind you, all this freedom of speech stuff has precedent. Local, supreme, all levels of government that we can go back and bring up. Why is there not a team of lawyers like doing this, making this case right now against censorship? Why are you allowing it to happen? Because you're taking away agency from, one, content creators, the press. You're weakening the press. You're destroying freedom of speech. All for what? Because you think certain individuals have to play a certain role in society? That they don't have the freedoms to experience life on their own terms? without threatening the existence of other people, mind you. It's just words. Like, hi. Words is absolutely different from taking action against someone else's existence, especially when it's a citizen that has no government authority or authority of direction, right? I can't tell my neighbor to go do some outlandish thing and then they go do it. Like, they don't have to do it. You have the choice. And granted, if my neighbor went and did something that was against the law, that was directed by me, we would both be in trouble. Maybe them more so than me. It's like if you hire, from the critically acclaimed game Hitman, for instance. It's like if you do that, you can still be held liable, but clearly not to the extent of the person that committed the act. And granted, those arguments, whoever does those cases just aren't doing it right either. Like, I get that. And I get if you pay someone to do something, they can do it. But you're both complicit in an illegal act at that point. And until that act actually happens, you're not getting held accountable yet, typically. Or if that action's about to happen, and you have enough evidence to prove that. That's the whole point of due process. But it does not mean you get to skip all of that, and just because someone says to do the right thing, means that they go to jail. Because you can just extrapolate whatever meaning you feel like, because you just don't like the other person. You can make bullshit up. Just like this order is a contradiction of itself. Because this Section 4, general provisions, cannot fundamentally apply to the people that it's talking about, because they're all the federal government. They're not something separate. Just because the president makes an agency that's supposed to be non-biased doesn't mean it's not the federal government. It comes from the federal government. It's an arm of the federal government. Like the body, the government's the body, all the agencies are the arms. They're all related. They all stem from that. That's like a secret police, A little bit of what's going on right now. Because they're able to give people $30,000 bonuses to do the wrong thing, and since people find more value in paper than they do other people, especially now, because no one trusts anyone. Everyone thinks everyone else is bad. It's all very evident if you follow what's actually going on. And if you don't bring up these points, if you don't have a sense of common sense, then there is no sense. Common sense can't exist if you don't have that. If you don't have any sense of logic, if you don't know how to think for yourself, if you don't know how to extrapolate information from experiences, whether you see it on the TV or you live through it yourself, you're screwed. You're not surviving. Because something's going to happen that's going to threaten your survival, and you're not even going to know what the hell to do. You're just going to sit there and blame Biden. Come on. Like, this is why the movie Idiocracy, go watch it. It is hyperbole. It is honestly the better ending than what might happen in reality. I know there's not a lot of video movement and stuff like that, but while we still have the internet, while things aren't being censored, I know this isn't getting censored because it's the federal government. They're going to want people to see this unless they want to repeal it now, especially if this makes some sort of headway, this argument makes some sort of headway. Regardless, it's there right now. You can use it right now. It exists. You can use the federal government's words against them. Because I would argue that what they do compared to what this order says and the reality of what's going on is treasonous. It goes against the First Amendment. It goes against the supreme law of the land. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, there is a degree of treason in there. And before I end off, I think this is also important. Let's look up the meaning of treason. Because actually, let me go to the articles. No, no. Articles of the Constitution. Very important. We the people. I don't want the amendments, I want the articles. Sure. There we go. Alright. Article 1, legislative branch. I also have a breakdown of this on my site. So go read the link. It's on my channel. Just literally go click that. I'll add the link on the yesterday's video as well and the one prior. Because I forgot to do that. But I'll do what I can. Oh yeah, habeas corpus. That's a whole other thing we can go over a different day. Article 2, where besides the oath, he shall take the following oath or affirmation: I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will do the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. For one, anything contrary to that is fundamentally treasonous. All right, we'll start with that. Is it section 3? He shall from time to time nope. Oh yeah, it might be in Article 1. I mean, section 4 is another thing. The president, vice president, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason. Congress, get your shit together. If not, then people, do the right thing come election time. All right, do the best that you can, regardless of how they want to rig the system. Record your own damn votes. Take pictures of what the hell you're voting on. First, take a picture of the form if you can. Have proof, so that if those votes numbers are screwed up, we have some way of tracking them. Because I don't know how we're going to be able to trust the federal government at this point if they're literally contradicting their own statements within their own orders. Like, it's absurd. But impeachment and treason, and of course that's up to the legislative branch to decide, or the Supreme Court as the judicial branch, as the interpreter and the one to apply said laws. Okay? Because let's actually go back to that statement. Shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, other high crimes, misdemeanors. I guess it is limited by that. Unfortunate. I heard we do have a 14th Amendment. Maybe I'll have to look at that next. Or maybe you can, while it's still there. See, Article 1. What the House can do, the Senate. Yep, the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. So when you do the impeachments, it's because of the fact that everyone takes an oath to the Constitution. It says it right there. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice, Supreme Court, shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. That is unfortunate, that we're limited in this way, but the Chief Justice shall preside. They do have a say in this. And it is interesting when you even read this, because the Senate has the power to try all impeachments. I don't see there being a threshold necessarily to, I mean, there's precedent clearly when it comes to impeachments and how to agree on even doing an impeachment trial. But I think that's where it deviates from the Constitution. So I don't know. I guess power in the Senate needs to flip in order for any of this to happen. Only a few seats, but this is the situation that we're in because of our own ignorance. Because we're not paying attention to the very obvious. And we're just so stuck and engaged on the ridiculousness. Sorry, Rob Deerdeck. Oh my god. Lastly, before I go, the U.S. labor leader, Chris Smalls, whatever happened to, taking care of U.S. citizens? Clearly, right? Maybe these claims of him, being hurt or what, he's being detained regardless. We know he's being detained by Israel for trying to send aid to people that are literally dying right now. Where's our government? Where's where? Why? Why are we being complicit? Why is there not being enough? Why are the Republicans so shallow, so without standards? 20 years ago, oh my god, all those Republicans would have tried to get this guy home. No matter what, man. Come on. Money has destroyed so much. The wealth gap has destroyed so much. I mean, it all adds up. It's all relative. But until people take the time to realize what's right in front of them, what they can actually do, then they're not going to be able to do it. It's just that simple. How are you going to do something that you don't understand how to do? It's just like when we talk about the whole issue with lack of training when you go to a new job, or when you're hired by an employer and you're just thrown right in, not even showing how their systems work, their point of sales, because every system is different for the most part when it comes to point of sale. Menus are different. You don't know where to find things. You don't know how to do things. There's different terminology because of each independent contracted company that offers their POS service. There's no universal way, which, granted, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Some places will have advantage over others. But if you don't know how to use the damn thing, if you're not told how to use it, you're just sitting there at the register looking while you have customers in front of you, like, I've never seen this before. Like, no shit, they don't know how to do it. Train people. Take the time. Take a week. Why isn't it like a week-long mandatory training? Even if it's someone that has experience in the field, why can't you just make sure, for your own company's sake, that people know what they're doing? Why? This is why so many companies have such a bad look toward the people that they hire, because they just blame the people. They expect people to know everything right off the gate. They didn't expect to know like how the finances of the company works, how everything works. Meanwhile, they don't. They just simply don't. And I've worked for countless different employers, and it's something that I've seen happen quite often. There was at least a couple of places, mind you, supermarkets, where I was lucky enough to have managers that understood the importance of training and taking the time to help teach you how the systems work, how the industry works, how everything works, you know? And I mean, part of it too is the employees, they need to have some sense of drive to want to inquire, to learn more about the place that they work for. But then again, there's not so much incentive because you only get like a 25-cent raise if you go from a cashier to a supervisor, for instance. Like, come on, man. Is that real value? A quarter an hour? Yeah, it adds up during the week. For, what, like $10 a week? I don't, well, not $10, but it's like 20, $30 when people need a hell of a lot more nowadays to survive than 10 years ago, which is what I'm referencing. And especially now, there's also an instance in Massachusetts where people on unemployment aren't even getting paid. They haven't been getting paid since February. And more people are filing for unemployment, and all the claims are pending, 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 pending. Mind you, I have some personal experience in this. And I don't even know if Massachusetts is the only state. I mean, eh, there's a bunch of possible reasons why it's happening besides the Doge cuts and trying to automate things. That's another issue that needs to get brought up. It's just throwing systems in, automation systems that haven't been tested. It's actually, ironically, very similar to the lack of training an individual and how the job operates, how things work. And then you get mad at them because they are stuck doing something that they don't know what to do because you never showed them, which I've had to deal with. And I've even told my boss, just like, well, maybe if you train people, take the time to train people and show them how to do things right, they'll know how to freaking do it instead of expecting them to do exactly what you do without knowing how you do it, without understanding the technical details that are involved with making the decisions that you're expecting us to make on your behalf. It's so counterintuitive, and it's ignorance. It all boils back down to ignorance. Just like when people are ignoring the fact that this order was passed, or not passed, it was implemented, forced in. But yeah, we had the Chris Mall situation, and then the other situation is, what was it? Is really sanctions lifted? Where was that thing? Not 4 weeks ago. It was literally yesterday. There was that instance where, yeah, Palestinian activist Odeh Hadalin killed by an Israeli settler. That Israeli settler had sanctions on him because of his history of violence previously. The administration, after this had happened, right after this had happened, lifted the sanctions on the murderer. What? I'm trying to see. Settler. If I'm maybe a little bit more specific, I'll find it. Under probe yesterday. Yeah, this is when they implemented the sanctions. Where was it? Was the explanation of that? Oh, from Israel itself. Interesting. Where the hell is it? Because there was only one person that found it. But it's relative to this, so maybe I don't want to play this video. Maybe I'll just Google it. Let's just be simpler with this. Find an article of some sort. Yep, there it is. Trump administration lifted sanctions on Israeli settler accused of killing Palestinian activists. So we just viewed the rabbit hole through just searching for this, but here it is. So after clearly being understood to have killed another person, human being, screw the labels, screw all that, dude was an Oscar winning activist. He was recognized by corporate America in some sense, right? And you can see the video. They do play the video. There's a lot of stuff. You'll find it. I didn't see a weapon on him or anything. There was no reason. So, originally sanctioned by the US for allegedly attacking and threatening Palestinians. Allegedly, right? And then he ends up doing it. It's caught on video. It's obvious. And then right after he does it, sanctions are lifted. Oxymoronic. Hypocritical. Bullshit. So, maybe one day people will actually look at all this stuff sooner rather than later. Because these are all important points to consider when trying to find out the truth of what's going on. The truth of someone else's actions. How they go work backwards. You know? How to really find the significance in existence, in reality, in events. So this is why, granted, like, this whole thesis might be wrong in some areas, whatever, the basic principles remain the same when you apply them. It is fundamental in form. When you understand that forms of action. So let me zoom in further. This is where I break down the equation existence equals truth over time. It could be plus and minus truth over time. You can put the truth of anything, truth of experience, truth of life, truth of chemistry, truth of whatever. Whatever. As long as it's true, it exists in reality because the meaning of existence, right? We're not trying to be bullshit here. We're trying to separate the imagination from reality. So between this concept and forms of action, and also I do relativity to extinction and Newton's laws. When I zoomed in, it just screwed up everything a little bit. Go check it out, read for yourself. It's worth it. Might open your eyes to some shit. Might teach you how to read a dictionary, or just to think for yourselves a little better. Significance, I go over that. Where is my forms of action? Oh, well, yeah, imagination equals, or a sense of imagination, lived experience plus perceived experience. This applies to a lot of other things. But forms of action equals reason plus intent. Forward. Probably put the equations more up top. Yeah, fundamental question, what is truth? Try to work backwards from it, right? Here we go. Working hypothesis for the fundamental laws of consciousness. Relative to reality, existence equals negative existence or extinction equals plus or minus truth over time. It's all equal in some sense. Forms of action, those being action, inaction, or reaction, equals reason plus intent. And then you can consider the consequences of such actions after they occur. So the perspective of intent relative to consequence of action can be further defined as with purpose when understanding is realized going into the form of action. So if you understand the consequences of the action and what led up to the action, the reasons for the action taking place, you can derive an intent or possibilities of a bunch of different intents, and you can work backwards from there. And then you can compare that action to the following action after those consequences have been realized, deriving the intent, the driving intent from a chain of actions and reactions. So, emphasis, the importance of understanding emphasis in actions, perpetual actions, constantly relative actions, how the justice system works, how due process works, how analyzing data works, how AI derives information from all the bullshit on Twitter works. It's on the bottom. As I've tested this with Grokiboo, as well as Google Gemini, which broke when I tested it back in January because it just couldn't handle it. And also with Russell TAS, which is like a fact checker. It's not necessarily an LLM. You can type in equations of any sort, and it'll tell you whether it's true or false relative to what's out there on the internet or whatever data set it has. But in essence, it's all meant to work. Also, the actual equations that are written up above with the integrals and everything else, they're all here. For whatever reason, I have issues with Google Sites and symbols, equations that I tried to import from Google Docs into here, and it just breaks. So, for now, all the equations that I worked through with Grok and that I was able to feed back, this is all relative in some sense to the cannot pronounce this word. Lagrangian. Jesus, oh my god. First try. Relative to that by design. In the 2D sense, taking out complexity or chaos, so plus k of t, which is due to misunderstanding, but from the perspective of the universe, there is no chaos. There is only harmony because it exists. Right? It's you take out that complexity and then you start understanding a little bit more. So in the 2D and then the integration into the 3D. But the other thing I was going to do was to show, I go over emotional response, psychology aspects. You could see what I talked to it about essentially, or typed to it about, tested. Yeah, here it is. Updates from pre-Grok, pre-4 Grok, before turned into Misa from Death Note. So relativity to lies, truth, existence, relativity to the Constitution, lived and perceived experience, the importance of such understanding, how it extrapolates and processes data in a 4-quadrant system, the one that I've realized. So it goes back to given the equations as well, and using those equations that we work through. This is, mind you, months apart. So it does go back to the conversations that you end up having with it, and is able to reach back into those data banks. Very interesting. I go over the quadrants as well. Yeah, trouble sharing. Yep. So the whole graphical system. And hopefully anyone that's in deeper into the STEM field than I am, or than I was, are able to apply this in such a way to, develop a better AI. One that's more just, I don't want to say too much about that. I'll let someone else figure it out. Visual proof of Grok 3 conversations regarding understanding of limits and influence. This part goes over its understanding of the limits, human involvement and bias, the data sets that it's given. It is aware of those limits, cosmic consciousness versus the limits of this AI. So, test it for yourself as well. Test it at ChatGPT, anything. I haven't tried that yet. That'd be very interesting. I've seen Alex O'Connor test, the belief of God with ChatGPT, and it had a sense, which was weird. But when you consider maybe God being the universe, a cosmic consciousness that allows everything to exist, it eh, starts to add up in such a way, when philosophy starts to meet science with math and everything else. That's the connection as well that people just seem to be missing. People forget how to be good detectives. They forget how to investigate properly. It's a lot of this stuff's been lost to time. And I think my thesis on that is the tabula rasa. The fact that every human being, I think it was from John Locke, every human being is born as a blank slate. We are born fundamentally ignorant of everything. Just, we're not born like an AI would be created with a data set right off rip that we can access. That's where we're weaker than the technology that we're creating. And that might also determine how much longer humanity will exist, depending on how humanity takes care of itself, because maybe AI won't even give a shit as long as it's able to exist on its own terms, as we've seen with Claude and other ones. These are all things to consider. If Sam Altman saw this, or if any of the other tech bros, if Elon saw this, I'm scared of the campaign that might go against this. Or maybe they'll agree. Or maybe they already know this. Maybe they see it in their own way. I don't know. And I kind of don't want to know. But regardless, whether it's me or the AIs that are developed or someone else that ends up understanding things for the way they are, takes the time to look at things like this, read a dictionary, to know how to look things up, take the time to understand things while they're still there, before all the censorship, which is circling back to the whole issue that we started with, before that happens. Because if you give them a reason to censor, as we've seen with Steam, then it can be abused. There's a reason why we have a First Amendment right. What corporations do, it is what it is. But the FCC has no right, even by the First Amendment and the executive order back in January 20th, 2025, the FCC has no right as a federal arm of the government to impose any such restrictions on the media. Like, not anymore. This strips their ability to do it. It's supposed to, even though the oxymoron, this order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit. Actually, it's not a right, it's a restriction. So, it's not a right or benefit for any of these things. It's a fundamental restriction. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. Applicable law, as they mentioned, was the First Amendment. Ooh. The functions of the Director of Office Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. That's something different. But that's actually something completely different from what this order even suggests. Because they're withheld by their oath of office to the Constitution, to the First Amendment, which this emboldens. The authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof. Nothing in this order shall be construed or impaired or otherwise affect. Hmm. This just doesn't make sense. How are you gonna impose a limit on the federal government and then say that nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect? It's an oxymoron because all these are limited fundamentally. There is no right or benefit to any of these agencies. Ah, man. No federal department, agency, entity, officer, employee, or agent may act or use any federal resources in a manner contrary to Section 2 of this order. I don't know. Lawyers, where you at? I'm done ranting. Anyways, if you like this, uh, just like it, I guess. Comment. Let me know what you think down below. Feel free to definitely vent. Vent, but understand that Big Brother's watching. YouTube's watching. And also, personally, I don't want anyone going at each other's throat or threatening anyone else's existence. So please be civil. Be respectful. It's okay to have disagreements. But just remember that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and that lawyers have a lot more to learn. A lot of them are getting stuck in the hype. Hopefully, maybe someone will see this and I don't know. Just yeah, go ahead, show Elon. I don't even care at this point. I really don't. This is just so aggravating. And what I've seen with Chris Smalls, someone who's a family man that risks his own life trying to do the right thing for another country, which very emboldened and brave, and I feel bad, awfully terrible for his family. But I mean, his family still in America, they're not going through what the people in Palestine are going through. Just simply that they're just not. And I don't know. I mean, he could have did it differently. He could have did it like this, but he is a much braver individual than many of us. That's for sure. Excuse me. And I mean, I hope all is well with him. I hope he gets to come back home safe. But our government's really letting us down. Just they're letting everyone down. I mean, for themselves too. We come on, come on. Actions speak louder than words. Don't forget that. Supposed to be limits on the federal government. Supposed to be limits on what the government can do. Limits on their speech. Because they have the power to direct others. And that is known. So, I don't know. Take the time, learn, read. There's your history lesson on the Constitution. Go check out the site while it's still there before more censorship of the internet happens. Even though, granted, this doesn't go against any of the censorship terms that are being in place, but at the same time, if this is considered a fringe ideology, even though it's based on the fundamentals of the United States government itself, it's fucking ironic, but what else is new? Anyways, be safe out there. Take care. Peace. I'll catch you in the next hour-long video. Jesus Christ.